there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, and today we are recording this on March 7, 2023. What is it exactly we're recording? A podcast about professional wrestling that is recording live every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. If you are watching this right now on demand on said YouTube channel, hey, consider giving the video a like. Consider even subscribing to the channel. Why? Well, because you'll never miss a recording for the rest of your life. If you can make it to one of the live recordings, that's great. But on top of that, you will not miss my AEW Dynamite reviews, which I do every Thursday, the day after. Every Thursday, I sit down and I break down the previous Dynamite, get into it deeply, so you'll never miss out on that. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, because yes, the audio is out there as a podcast, pure and simple. Thank you very much, by the way. You can also leave reviews and stuff like that. That also helps. Follow, subscriptions, all that stuff. But hey, here's the thing, is that even there, even if you subscribe to the podcast, to the audio, you'll also get the Dynamite review stuff. Doesn't this all just sound great? Isn't this something that you just like and makes you feel good and fuzzy inside? Because it should. But yeah, no, subscribe, like, reviews, all that stuff. Anything you can do to show a little support for the Mr. Warren Hayes Show on that front helps out a tremendous deal. And I thank you in advance. And listen, we're talking wrestling here, but if you want to talk with wrestling fans, there's a Discord for the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel community, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show community. And you can join that. The link is in the description. We'd love to have you if you want to come jump in. Of course, if you want to read my thoughts, because I've started writing again. If you want to read my thoughts regarding pro wrestling, well, you can do so over at voicesofwrestling.com. I'm gladly contributing there now, so that's absolutely fantastic. Voicesofwrestling.com if you want to read my articles over there. And if you become a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel on YouTube, you will also have access to the members only streams, which I do every week, where we talk a little more about more wrestling and stuff like that. But for members only, and it also shows a little support for the Mr. Warren Hayes Show as well. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for being here. So what are we going to do now? This is really simple. Talk about pro wrestling. And deep review of AEW Revolution 2023. I don't think anyone's surprised here. I'm going to give you some thoughts on Ring of Honor. We're going to quickly go over the events of the first two nights of the New Japan Cup. We're going to talk about the MLW lawsuit. Busy show, but thank you for being here. So officially, let's get to it. We are going to kick this show off with the weekly wrestling inspection. We're talking about this. The stroke is already settling in right now. Weekly wrestling inspection, Warren. You've only been saying that for like 3 years at this point. When did I start doing this? Like, that's about right? 3 years? Anyway, thanks for being here, everyone. If you haven't already liked the video, that would be very, very appreciated. Give it a like on YouTube. That's it if you're watching it right now on YouTube. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, well, just a little like here. But, since a lot of people live in the chat have been asking about this, I did want to start off with the AEW Revolution review, but, people are, hey, what'd you think about the promo on, John Cena cut on Austin Theory last night? Look. Here is my official thoughts on it. I thought it was a fantastic promo, and there's no two ways to go about it, right? John Cena, latter day John Cena, he's always been a good promo, right? But latter day John Cena, like he's like this biblical figure, right? Latter day John Cena he's been tremendous as on the mic and as a promo. He's absolutely outstanding work. He, you just have to go back to the last few programs that he's been in as a part-timer. Of course, the dressing down of Roman Reigns that he did what is it, like 5 years ago at this point? 2017, 2018, that's around those dates, right? He's just been phenomenal. John Cena being like, you know, I have no two shits to give. I'm still the biggest star in this company, even though I don't work here full time. You know, it's like, I love that. And it's a great energy that he has. Very connected to the audience, and it all works. It all works great to me. I think it's fantastic. Now, the content of the promo itself, I've seen a lot of people lose their minds over it and said, "I can't believe they're saying this on TV." You know, and John Cena can say anything he wants. Let's just pump the brakes a little bit, just a tiny bit, a wee little bit, because Cena's promo was planned. There's nothing that was said in the context of that promo that hadn't been cleared before time, right? This wasn't a shoot. All of this was well set out. And I couldn't help but think about, I think maybe a year ago, and I can't quite remember, Kevin Owens did the same type of promo on Austin Theory. Is it when Kevin Owens went to NXT, right, that one time, and he just like completely demolished him? It was essentially the same type of thing. Or was it Kevin Owens on Raw? I don't remember. But I feel like Kevin Owens has done this a couple of times already. So we're going down this path. Now everyone's losing their minds and saying, yes, he's saying what everyone thinks about. He's saying, you know, everything, you know, everything that's being said about Austin Theory that we feel about him is being said out loud, right? Yes. And but like I said, this isn't the first time that this type of promo has come up regarding Austin Theory. And it just shows that WWE is fully aware of the criticism that Austin Theory is receiving, and they're using it as part of Austin Theory's story. So there's nothing that's being said here which is truly hurting in a storyline sense to Austin Theory, because this is exactly the path they want him to go down. This is why he suddenly stopped doing the selfie gimmick and then became all ruthless aggression. We've been told multiple times on television, by commentary, by, you know, punditry extraordinaire everywhere, that Austin Theory is the future of WWE. He's the next big thing. The one thing that WWE is doing right now is leaning into the criticism so that Austin Theory can lean into them, so that they become they become part of the tale, which is fine, don't get me wrong. The point that I'm making here is whoever is latching onto this and saying, yeah, Austin Theory got destroyed, is not the case. That's not what's happening here. Au contraire, it doesn't matter that this promo happened. It doesn't matter that you in the audience think that Austin's Theory sucks and that John Cena is pulling a Dan Lambert, essentially, and being the voice of the internet criticism towards Austin Theory, right? Just like, you know, Dan Lambert in AEW, right? When he'd basically be the cornet surrogate to the AEW fans, right? It's the same situation here. We've got a situation where Cena's just playing a role. He's generating babyface heat for himself because the popular opinion is that Austin Theory stinks. He's not ready for the role. He's overpushed, overexposed. He's not ready. That's exactly what everyone is thinking. So everyone going, yes, John's right. It's like, this is the story. Get excited about it, don't get me wrong, but we can't sit around here and pretend like this was some kind of shoot, like this was some kind of a big revelation that John Cena was presenting into the world. It was just interesting to hear John Cena basically being the voice of creative, affirming, acknowledging the criticism and going, yeah. And yeah, we pipe in crowd noise. That was probably the most interesting part of the entire promo, where it's like, oh, really? We're really talking about this, right? We're talking about the bag of tricks that you guys have when things don't go your way, when the audience ain't responding like you like, the way you like. We're gonna do this now. I think that's really interesting. So, I don't know, this is where I'm at right now. And the thing is that I agree with everything that John Cena said, that Austin Theory is not ready. I think he's, I think he is the most overpushed. He is the biggest pushed mid wrestler in that entire company right now. He's entirely average in everything, which is fine. He's a fine pro wrestler, don't get me wrong. I don't see the superstar material in him, but you know what? That doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter whatever John Cena says, and it doesn't matter at all, because just like John Cena before him, just like Roman Reigns, the WWE is going to push the star that they feel is going to be the star. It doesn't matter what you as a fan think. It really doesn't. If it did, Sammy should have won 2 weeks ago. If it did, Kofi should have had more than one reign. If it did, Bryan Danielson should have been really treated as a top guy when he was Daniel Bryan. But, he got his stuff in. He got his championships, but he was never seen as a top guy. And when I'm saying a top guy, I'm talking about a face of the company, a guy who will carry it on his back, whose face will be all over the posters, who'll do the Good Morning Americas and the Today shows and the Kelly Clarkson shows and what the fuck else, This is what they want. And whatever WWE will want out of their top superstar, they're going to make sure that that's the one that you consume. So when everyone on commentary says Austin Theory is the future, he's going to be the next big thing, I believe it. And that's probably the plan. And they have started grooming him for that position. This is where we're going right now. They've been doing it for months now. Why do you think he was in an angle with Vince? Why was Vince regularly on TV with them? Because it was a project of Vince's. Vince sees whatever in the guy. And he was like, this is going to be my next star. It's not going to be Sammy. It's going to be Austin Theory. He's the guy who's going to be shoved down our throats. He's the next golden boy. And mark my words, we've seen this pattern before. So, again, it doesn't matter if John Cena exposed him. It doesn't matter, because ultimately it's creative that's going to decide who they're going to push, regardless of the fan reactions. So yeah, Theory might end up being the next Roman Reigns. And to be completely clear, yes, he is going to win his WrestleMania match. There's no reason for him. There's no reason for John Cena to go over. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason. And Cena understands the business enough to be like, yeah, I'm going to put over your young guy, Vince. Because guys did that for him. What do you think Kurt Angle did for him? Right? So he's in the same position. It's like he's being brought back to put over the young guys, which is normal. That's what Cena should do. So there's no reason for Cena to win at WrestleMania. And that's going to go into the story. This is going to be the next step for Austin Theory. He's like, you all doubted me. John Cena said I didn't have it in me. Well, I got my WrestleMania moment. Mark my words. I've been watching wrestling for a long time. This is the most probable outcome. I will eat my hat, a figurative hat, because I like this hat. I will eat a figurative hat. I will listen. I am on the record right here. If Austin Theory loses his match against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, I will make Cooking with Jack's Lazy Man's lasagna and eat a full bowlful. I will make it, I will record it, and I will eat it. This is a guarantee that I make to you. That's how sure I am Austin Theory is winning at WrestleMania. Let's talk about Pluggo. Nice to see you, buddy. Nice to see you. Welcome to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Pluggo, of course, of the Between Two Beards podcast. I was on there last week previewing AEW Revolution 2023. So now tonight we're coming full circle and I'm going to review AEW Revolution 2023, which happened just this weekend, just past weekend, a couple of days ago, March 5th, 2023, from the San Francisco city in the California state of the United States of America in the Chase Center. Apparently a record, an attendance record for the Chase Center. Just about 10,000 people, not a sellout, but they had been opening up more seats over the past 3 or 4 weeks. I think when they opened up tickets, it was around 8,000. They were doing, the capacity was like over 8,000, maybe 8,300. I don't quite remember. And then we ended up with close to 10,000 people. So again, not a rousing gate success. Still better, I think, than a lot of people anticipated. And no news yet on buys, which bums me out because maybe in the Observer newsletter this week we'll have something. But you know, I like to talk about the buys. I think it's important. If anything, we'll talk about it next week, or even better yet, we'll talk about it with the members this week on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel's Going Broadway show, which is exclusive for members only. Fridays, free days. Become a member. But we'll eventually find a time to talk about it. Don't worry about that. But yeah, so the show happened, and you know what? Look, we're just gonna get this out of the way. I thought this was an excellent pay-per-view attraction. I was entertained from head to toe. We had some legendary matches on here. I think the stuff that didn't connect as well or as hard was still good. Like there was still qualities to everything that happened. This was a very good pro wrestling show. I think right now it is the bar for show of the year in North America, at least. You know, if we want to start arguing with Kaiji Muto's retirement show, then yeah, okay, we could have a discussion, a healthy debate. But straight out the gate, I tremendously enjoyed this show. I thought it was fantastic. Started off on the pre-show, of course, with the Lucha Brothers and Mark Briscoe defeating Ari Daivari and the Varsity Athletes. I think it's interesting that they're doing this now. They're separating clearly Ari Daivari from the Varsity Athletes because Ari Daivari probably is going to end up being on the Ring of Honor circuit, right? Because he was introduced as Ari Daivari and the Trust Busters. Like he's still the Trust Busters are existing in Ring of Honor. Look, I know there's a little confusion here, but you know, it's probably the tapings versus what they're doing live, and you know, and besides, who cares? We're talking about like lower card curtain jerker stuff. Who cares? It's not that big a deal. I just wanted to point out that it was interesting that he's Ari Daivari and the Varsity Athletes. Anyway, Josh Woods and Tony Nese. Fun little opener, right? Everyone worked hard here. got the crowd into it. The Lucha Brothers landed combination gory bomb pedigree, I guess, which was really dope. And Mark Briscoe got the win with the Froggy Bow. Mark continuing down his fan appreciation tour. You gotta love it. By the way, Bill Bodkin, nice to see you and welcome. But let's the pre-show this week. Let me segue in. You'll see where I'm going with this. The pre-show this week, right? This week, for this pay-per-view, for this AEW pay-per-view, broke their usual 0-hour formula, right? Where usually we just like get 3 or 4 matches, crowd pleasers, high octane, do, let's get it going. Now it's like, we're doing, Renee is the host and she's talking, she has guests. You have RJ City doing bits on the quote unquote red carpet, and we have one match. So that completely broke the tradition anyway that AEW had set up here, where it's like, listen, the pre-shows are just chock full of matches and action. And I was like, okay, this, at first I was like, man, I'm a little bummed, but because I liked it. But then again, I think back at it and like, isn't this just a little smarter? Isn't it a little smarter in the sense that, you are putting on a 60-minute Iron Man match in the tail end of a show towards, what was it, 10:30 p.m. when the ring bell, when the bell of the ring, when the ring bell rang for MJF versus Danielson. You want people to have energy for that, right? Like, you don't want to run the risk of exhausting your audience. I'm like, okay, I get it. I kind of see what they were trying to do with this, right? And it made sense. Now, does this go in? Now, was this a response to everyone who complains that AEW pay-per-views are so long, right? There's so many matches. There's too many matches. That was a question that kept coming up. It always comes up. And now it's like we get a pay-per-view with like what? 8 matches, 9 matches? And then people are on the media call on Thursday saying, hey, Tony, how does it feel to book a lighter show? And all the people with these concerns that these shows are too long. And I will maintain, and I maintain that this fabricated issue that AEW pay-per-views are too long is an issue that exists exclusively for people who cover wrestling and make wrestling-related content. People who cover more than just AEW, that cover the Fed, that cover Japan, that do all sorts of different things. Because I don't see fans complaining about this. It always seems like it's an issue that comes from people who have to talk about it, who have to create content around it. It's like, oh man, another pay-per-view. Man, it's good. We're going to be up till 11:30 at night. But I don't see AEW fans complaining about this. I don't see wrestling fans bitching about this. Unless they're parroting stuff. I really believe that this is a made up issue. This thing about AEW pay-per-views being too long, I think it's a made up issue. And they should be the length that they are. Because AEW puts on 4 pay-per-views, well, now 5, let's say 5 pay-per-views per year, as opposed to the other guys who put one on every other month. Every month, I should say. Not even every other month, every month. The other guys put one on every 12 months, so everyone has a chance to get a pay-per-view payday. This is not the same thing in this company. And there is such a thing as pay-per-view paydays. Be absolutely clear about this. If you're booked on a pay-per-view, you make more money. That's what you want. You want to get over so that the booker man puts you on the pay-per-view so that you can get a little extra bonus. That's why. So it's ridiculous. In the vacuum of AEW that exists to please its own audience, its own fans, and who works towards its own staff and crew and talent. Tony doesn't give a shit if Warren Hayes is watching 18 hours of pro wrestling over 3 days. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if, Wrestling Inc. and Fightful have to get all these review crews in. It's like, man, we have to talk about more wrestling. They don't care. Tony Khan doesn't care. This is an issue that exclusively exists with people who watch all the wrestling and who are at some point hit a saturation mark and they're like, this is too much, man. And I can understand that because there are moments where you're like, oh man, okay, there's so much wrestling. What? WrestleMania week is coming up, right? That's another big deal. That's another big situation. People are going to say, oh, there's too many shows. No, there's not too many shows. If you're a wrestling fan, if you enjoy wrestling, you're not committed to watch anything. You can take a break. You can go out and have a walk around the block and come back. Even if you miss like 5 minutes of Joey Janela's spring break during the clusterfuck. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's not a real issue. And I am convinced that a lot of the people who complain about this, you'd go back and you'd look at their work and they'd be like, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, they're going, man, I wish there was more alternatives to WWE. I wish we could watch more wrestling. I wish there was more offers in WWE. Now we have them. We have them. It's a fabricated issue. It doesn't exist. Not in the minds of AEW fans, not in the minds of Tony. Tony Khan's job is not to balance out what he's doing because WWE is doing so many hours a week or because Impact is on this day and doing this pay-per-view. That's not his job. His job is to cater to his fans. His job is to create opportunities for work for his talent. Pay-per-views are part of the deal. He runs 5 big shows a year. 5. So of course, he's going to stack them. He's going to put as many people as he can on it. And that's okay. Jeez. I haven't even started with the pay-per-view yet and I'm already on rants. Motown Slim, member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Nice to see you and welcome. Also have Phantom Mark 82 who's joined us. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Let's get into the show proper. Opened up. Bit of a surprise to me, but when you look at how everything went down, you're like, yeah, this show was really well put together. I thought the placement of matches was second to none. Everything connected. There was nothing that felt out of place here. Ricky Starks defeated Chris Jericho in the opener. Good choice to open it. Guaranteed. I saw this and I was like, oh, well, this guarantees the best possible outcome. This guarantees Ricky Starks is going to win. Because that's what AEW does. Starts off the show with a crowd pleaser. Get the audience behind them. Nobody's exhausted yet. They're excited. They're chomping at the bit. They only got one show on the they only got one match on the pre-show. Chris Jericho comes out. They do the Judas thing. They explode for Ricky Starks. They're like, let's fucking go. Ricky Starks is in control early. Does a dive to the floor. Runs Chris Jericho into the barricades. Back in the ring, Jericho double throat chops him. Goes for a lion salt. It misses. But a little later on, Chris Jericho rams Ricky Starks off the apron. Does a double underhook backbreaker as well. A springboard kick and then kicks Ricky Starks to the floor. Back in the ring. Goes for a code breaker. It's blocked. And into a power bomb by Ricky Starks, which was a nice reversal. He goes for a spear, but no, it is countered by a code breaker by our boy Ricky Starks, who covers, and we get a really slim kick out here. And you know what I liked about this? Just last week, Chris Jericho defeated Peter Avalon with the code breaker. Just last week. And now we bring back the code breaker. It's like, oh! He finished off a guy with it this week, and now the margin was very slim on the 3 count. A good near fall. It all made sense. Then Ricky Starks hits a spear, covers. Chris Jericho kicks out. They slug it out. Eventually, we get into the walls. Ricky Starks reverses it into a single leg crab. Then the fear rises into everyone's blood. Sammy Guevara arrives. Out of nowhere arrives Action Andretti, despite the fact that the Jericho Appreciation Society were all banned. This is still happening, but Andretti's there to make sure that Sammy doesn't do anything, and Andretti doesn't turn on. He doesn't turn on Ricky Starks. He doesn't join the Jericho Appreciation Society. None of that. But the bat is there. Floyd. Chris Jericho uses it on Ricky Starks, but Ricky Starks won't go down. Jericho goes for the Judas effect, and it is blocked. Ricky Starks blocked that like he was playing Street Fighter. Just like, oh. Just like, ah. Just blocks it. He hangs on to the elbow, hammers Chris Jericho into oblivion, locks in the Rochambeau and lands it. Win for Ricky Starks. This was the best possible outcome. This was the absolute best possible outcome. And as you may know, I don't subscribe to this, to the Jericho Vortex stuff. I don't think it's, you have to be, look, I want to preface this. If you like Chris Jericho for any personal reasons, for whatever reason, I can completely get that. That's absolutely fine. But we cannot look at what happened with Ricky Starks in this situation here, and we cannot say that this was not wonderfully booked. Don't forget, Ricky Starks was heated up to be MJF's first opponent after MJF won the AEW World Championship. So of course, Starks is not winning it, but we still had to heat him up. Starks had a tremendous build to that match. Everyone believed in it. He lost. And if anything, everyone should have been worried at that moment. It's like, what is the follow-up to this going to be? What is the follow-up to this match, to Ricky Starks losing, going to be? Because you don't want to deflate him. You don't want him to go back to to catering. What are we doing here? Goes into a feud with Chris Jericho, beats him clean as a sheep once, beats all of the goons in the Jericho Appreciation Society. On top of that, he's on TV every single week after I have people saying week after week last year for months, where's Ricky Starks? Where's Ricky Starks? Oh, he's on TV, but he should wrestle more. Where's Ricky Starks? And then he's on TV every week, and they're like, but he's gonna be lost because it's not doing anything for him. This has done wonders for Ricky Starks. Television every week in prime positions. He's at the 9 o'clock hour. What are we doing? And second match against Chris Jericho, beats him clean as a whistle. Every time that even the only time that the Jericho Appreciation Society beat Ricky Starks was by chicanery. By interference. He's been beating all of these dudes. And you're going to tell me that this feud is going to be bad for him? I don't know what to tell you. If you cannot objectively look at this and say, you know what, this feud did wonders for him. This feud did wonders. This is perfect. Yes, this is where it should drop off. Hopefully, Ricky Starks should move on to something bigger and better. He should move on to someone else. They have to continue this ascension. This is the thing. there's so much discourse around what AEW doesn't do right, that when they do something right, there's some goalpost moving. There's something weird that happens. Like, oh, they should be building new stars. There you go. What? I don't know how you can be building a better new star than what you're doing right now. Plus, on top of it, Ricky Starks is a guy people want to cheer for. It's a guy people like already. He has a connection. And they're deciding to pushing him. There's nothing bad about this feud here. And this is a hill I will die on. Now, what the follow-up is going to be is different. Let's talk about the follow-up to this, because this is something where AEW has a tendency to drop the ball. There are circumstances where the ball has been dropped to follow-ups. Now, I don't want this to happen to Ricky, and I would assume that, considering his upward trajectory right now, that he is a priority on the booking list. But we'll see. We have to sit back and watch this go out, because now we're entering another cycle in Tony Khan's booking. Well, we're going to have to see how this goes. Next, Jungle Boy Jack Perry defeated Christian Cage in a match that over-delivered. This final final burial match. Burial? Final burial match, which is a buried alive match. I like how they scooch around these things. And again, it's like, why didn't they announce this weeks ago, that it was going to be a final burial match? It's like, who cares? Like, it didn't impede into my enjoyment of all of this. The build has been great without knowing that coffins were involved. Caskets, excuse me. Not the same. Anyway, this match over-delivered. And another big-time Jack Perry match. 2 in a row. 2 papes in a row. Where Jack Perry comes out there in a feud where you're like, it's like, it's pretty good, but, not one of the top things, and has one of the better matches on the show. I'm talking, of course, about the cage match with Luchasaurus, which was outstanding. Just completely outstanding. And, I know that here's a guy that has a lot of discourse around him, right? Because I think you have 2 camps. You have 2 people you have 2 different types of people when it comes to Jungle Boy appreciation. You have people who absolutely buy into the pillar stuff. And it's like, yeah, this is one of the future guys of the company. He's going to be a big time player. Sky's the limit, so on and so forth. And you have people who are like, well, hang on, pump the brakes. He's good, but is he that good? Sure, he's got good looks, but he's still lacking in some crucial parts, and so on and so forth. Is he fully developed? Blah 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 blah. I would argue that the hand that he has been dealt after Christian Cage got injured, right before All Out, right? We didn't know at that point, but when Christian Cage got injured and this entire feud was completely derailed, was put on pause, and they had to do other things with him, Jack Perry has shown up. He's shown up and has completely carried everything he's done. And you can't even say, oh, well, so-and-so did the job for him here. And, no. Luchasaurus is perfect, I find, in the role that he has right now, although we haven't seen him in months. But I like the role that they have for him. Jack Perry was was absolutely the guiding force in that stretch of the feud, and was phenomenal in that match. Sure, both of them contributed to this great match, to the great match that they had at Full Gear. And then after, what did they do? Well, Christian's not ready to come back yet. Like we talked about here on the podcast, the best D-list podcast with the A+ audience. We were saying here, Jack Perry is in this tag team with Hook just to give him something to do until Christian comes back. And they split the team just 2 weeks before Christian comes back. I saw it. I told y'all. Y'all saw it coming. Thanks to me. But the point is that even in that tag team, he made it special. He was part of making it special. He was the Ricky Morton. He was doing his role perfectly in that tag team situation. Then we get back to the singles thing. Christian is back. A spotless build to this match. Spotless. I got nothing to say about it. Maybe the digging in front of the cars, digging in front of the headlights of Christian Cage's grave was a little corny. But corny doesn't necessarily create like complete disinterest. Not always. It was just simple enough. We were all able to move on for it. And it had to tie into the match, ultimately. This ruled. And the match starts at the bell, spills quickly into the floor. Cage, of course, takes a powder into the crowd because he's a chicken shit. But when he gets back into the ring, he gets in control, works some heat. Jack Perry works Cage on the floor, launches him into the steps. Christian Cage blades. And boy, is he violent on those steps, I'll tell you what. Jungle Boy is standing on the stairs and Christian just swipes his feet under him. Jack just lands flat on his back on the steps, like not on the safer part, on the not as safe part of the steps. That was just, I shrieked. He being Christian Cage takes off Perry's belt because they're in, he's in jeans attire, starts whipping him. And he's not holding back. Starts whipping him all the way up the aisle. Christian Cage opens up the casket. There are chairs in the casket. They try to dump each other into the casket. It's not quite working out. Jungle Boy pushes Christian Cage off the stage and then does a flipping senton off the stage to the floor. Mwah. Jungle Boy comes in with a chair. Christian Cage low blows him. Rams Perry's head against the casket multiple times. Tries to toss him in. Tosses him in. Tries to close the casket, but Jack is fighting. Fights out of it until Christian Cage throws some dirt into his eyes. Lands a kill switch. Jungle Boy avoids a concerto. Swings a shovel. They start swinging a shovel at each other. And then they try to choke each other out with it. Jungle Boy locks in the snare trap with the shovel, deeply embedded into Cage's mouth. Perry lands the concerto. He overcomes his conscience, and he drags Cage to the casket, closes the lid. The casket collapses into the depths of hell. What a fucking great visual, though. Closes the casket and the casket just disappears. Fantastic stuff. This match over-delivered. I loved this match so much. I thought it was great. Great story going into it. Good work. It felt visceral, but and I saw commentary. Some people said, they could have gone harder, more violent. Yeah, but look at what was coming up later on in the evening. There's things that you could not do. They did the maximum with what they were told they could do. But they couldn't, it couldn't have been a gusher because we were saving that for later. This was outstanding. And Christian Cage now, moving on. I talked about it on the Dynamite review last week. Christian Cage is doing some of the best work of his career right now. And he should not be languishing, in these tiny mid-card feuds. He's got to, everyone is like, who should be next for Wardlow? Because, spoiler alert, I think Wardlow's retaining on Wednesday. It's like, Christian Cage should feud with Wardlow. What are we even doing? All this shit, Christian Cage has been golden in AEW, and this feud has been outstanding. He is so despicable and great at what he does. I loved it. Great match. Hey, Heather. How you doing? Heather, member of the MrWarrenHayes Show channel. Good to see you. Next, we got the AEW World Trios title match where the House of Black defeated the Elite to become the new AEW Trios champions. Well, now. Huh. William Davis, nice to see you and welcome. As well, a member of the MrWarrenHayes Show channel. Isn't this interesting now? So, look, how far in do we want to go on tinfoiling tonight? Look, we have a bunch of stuff to talk about. I don't want to sit around here and talk Kenny Omega conspiracies too much. We did a huge breakdown on, I did a lot of conspiracy talks and, trying to make some connections on last week's episode. It's a frequent subject on the members only stream going Broadway, which you can access and join us if you're a member of the MrWarrenHayes Show channel here on YouTube. So there's a lot of stuff here. But so I'm not going to go too deep into, did they take the belts off of Omega because contract running up, blah blah blah. I think, though, whatever the contract situation is, it's still very much down the road. And right now, I think they want Kenny Omega to have a singles run. They want him to be available for someone. So, yeah. So we'll see. I think this is what they're doing. I mean, because look, the show in Winnipeg is in 2 weeks. It's not this Wednesday, it's next Wednesday, right? You would assume that they have something up their sleeve for that. This will be probably a little more of a kickoff. But look, I thought this match was very good. I had very high expectations for this match. And I think it's fair to assume that a lot of you as well. I think this match didn't live up to those expectations. This was a very good match. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed this thoroughly. I enjoyed how much Brody King was the MVP of this match. He was all over the place doing big man shit to just everyone. It was outstanding. I enjoyed Kenny Omega getting most of the work in for the Elite. Like, I have nothing to complain here. But there's nothing for me to complain here. Because this was a very good match. My expectations were much higher, considering the 6 men in this ring. So am I disappointed? Not disappointed. Disappointed, I don't think is the word. Well, no, I think it is disappointing. I'm a little disappointed because I really did expect something fiercer than this. But again, I'm complaining. I'm saying it's like saying you're hungry when your belly's full, right? This match ruled. It was great. I didn't like it as much as other people did. Let's put it that way. The guys on Cage Match are giving it 8.74. I guess, but for me it's a little just a smidge lower. Anyway, look, the match starts off with Buddy Murphy and Kenny Omega starting it off to the delight of everyone. I'm just really disappointed they didn't do the Spider-Man point meme. Malachi Black takes Kenny Omega down and they have a great exchange. Brody King runs through the Elite. Matt dives to the floor. Kenny Omega does some head scissors on Brody King. Lands the Rise of the Terminator as well. Brody King lays waste to the Elite again until Kenny Omega splashes Brody King and hits a Kataro Crusher. He goes for the You Can't Escape, but he lifts Brody King, which is not an easy thing to do. And he can't quite land the moonsault. Brody King lifts the knees. Kenny Omega tries the One-Winged Angel and the Dragon Suplex, but Brody King rainmakers him. Strikes in a huge knee by Buddy Murphy, Malachi Black, excuse me. Exciting sequence then just happens. There's great shit happening afterwards. Julia Hart is on the apron. She gets accidentally V-triggered by Omega, and Omega sort of looks down and he goes, well, you... sorry, not sorry. You know, it's like you got involved. What am I gonna? Sorry, but you know, if you didn't want to run the risk, fella. And he walks into a huge black mass by Malachi Black. Matt Jackson saves the match. We get a Dante's Inferno again. The Elite break the pin up. House of Black dump the Jacksons, and they, being the House of Black, are alone in the ring with Kenny Omega. They're smelling blood. They're the pack of coyotes ready to come in for the kill, but the Jacksons rush back in. Super kick party follows. BTE trigger. Buddy Murphy saves. In fact, the Bucks go for a Meltzer driver, and Buddy Murphy lands a V trigger on Nick as he's flying off in a fantastic spot, and that leads to one final Dante's Inferno for the goddamn win. Great stuff. Great stuff. I'm super happy that the House of Black have it. They were being established as a force to be reckoned with. This all makes sense. I can only assume that with the way things are going and going into Double or Nothing season very, very slowly, right? Double or Nothing's in May. We still have a lot of time to stretch our legs and talk about things. But this, I thought, was fantastic. And yeah, I love this. Yeah, the swerve at the end is that the Elite were going to win. It felt like a classic match composition for the Elite. I thought this was great. I thought, again, very good. Excuse me. I thought it was a very good match. But I sound disappointed. Maybe I am a little bit because my expectations were much higher. I was expecting a match of the year here. Don't get me wrong. We got an extraordinarily solid match, a pay-per-view quality match. And I'm sitting here going, well, but this is what happens when you watch a company that has an embarrassment of riches when it comes to talent, and you have, top tier world-class athletes, pro wrestlers in the ring, and you're like, this is going to be anything but a match. This is going to be anything. This can't be anything less than a match of the year. It's my own damn fault is what I'm telling you. It's my own damn fault. I'm trying to blame AEW and saying, if your wrestlers all weren't so good, Tony, I wouldn't expect these matches. It's my own damn fault for putting this pressure on the Elite and the House of Black. And then me coming in and then going, well, that doesn't make it into my list. I'm not talking about this match at the end of the year. It's my fault. It's no one else's. The match was very good. A very, very good match. Then we moved on to the AEW Women's World Title three-way match. Don't call it a triple threat. Where Jamie Hayter defeated Saraya and Ruby Soho to retain her championship. I'm going to tell you, as much as I dislike multi-person matches for championships, I thought the ladies delivered here. I thought this was fine. Well worked, good work, solid pro wrestling match, good stuff. This was Saraya's best showing in AEW to date, and this was probably part of the plan. Use the three-way thing to showcase her strengths, right? So I'm a little Yeah, you know, if you've been listening to the Dynamite reviews, you know I'm a little low on Saraya these days. And she's not doing it for me. But, you know, okay, this evens things out maybe a little more. Anyway. Jamie Hayter goes after everyone from the get-go. Saraya trips her up on the outside. She gets drop kicked off the apron by Ruby Soho. They fight into the crowd. Ruby Soho leaps over the barricade, splattering everyone on the floor. Back in the ring, Saraya is in control of Jamie Hayter. Sidewalk slam by Jamie Hayter on the apron. STO by Ruby Soho as well. Jamie Hayter slugs Saraya while Ruby Soho is on her back. Hayter hits the double suplex and double lariat. I love that these big double, like these big power moves that Jamie Hayter does, where she's like suplexing two people at once. Lariat. That's part of her thing now, right? That's part of her arsenal, and I like it. It suits her. Suplexes and backbreakers all around. Saraya is battered. She did this thing where it's like, everyone stop, you know, and then Ruby Soho and Jamie Hayter start wailing on her. We get a Tower of Doom, -3 stars. I fucking hate Towers of Doom. I hate Towers of... You know why I hate the Tower of Doom? Do we have to go through this again? It's the dumbest spot. It is a dumb spot. Plus, the person delivering the Tower of Doom always ends up hurt as well. They do the thing, they throw both people off, bump, and they bump as well. And I'm like, and then, so, everyone's on the mat. And then, why are you doing the spot then? Why are you doing the Tower of Doom if it's going to take you out? But Warren, it is the exhaustion of doing the Tower of Doom, of flipping two people off the turnbuckle, that is making them get exhausted. Okay, so let whatever those two others are doing on the turnbuckle do that, and you stay rested. Like, they never make sense. Saraya locks in her finisher. I can't remember the name of it, but that submission that she has, right? Where she's lifting someone like in a hog tie type of thing. And it's fantastic. A lariat by Jamie Hayter. Distractions all around from people at ringside. The no future is blocked. Haterade lands on Saraya. In and out of pin attempts. Jamie Hayter gets the win. Yeah, I like this. I thought this was well worked, fine little match. Nothing wrong with it. They avoided a lot of the tropes that I really hate when it comes to three-way matches. Again, I still don't think it is the best way to showcase your title, showcase your champion, showcase a challenger. Heat someone up. Just heat someone up. Heat up a challenger. Anyway, after the match, though, the heels beat up on the baby faces, and Ruby Soho sends off the heels, only to do a very slick turn. A very slick turn on the baby faces, and joins the side of the freelancers. What do they call it? They shouldn't call them the freelancers, because they're not freelancers. What should they call them? The out of towners, the townies and the country girls. What? She joins the former WWE girls, because that's the gimmick, right? I thought the turn was very good. I thought it was a very, very slick turn. Very good stuff. Like, I think it was Pretty Kyle from the Apron Bump. He tweeted it out. He said he's the one who called it slick. Said, like, no, not even a not even a hint of, oh, turn incoming, one of these things where you're like, oh, I can see it incoming. No, it's like, it was really well done. So a little shot to the arm for this feud, for this storyline. I'm not holding my breath, but hopefully we're going down. Hopefully this will start picking up some real steam here. Texas Death Match. Adam Page defeated Jon Moxley in one of the goddamn best matches I've seen this year. And I'm not even done talking about great matches on this card. Excellent matches on this card. What a fight. Ghost Riders in the Air, the version by the Outlaws, is Adam Page's musique du jour. I don't know if that's his new theme. I liked Adam Page's theme. But I'm like, when that started with the video and all of that, and then you realize, holy shit, this is such a great wrestling entrance song. This ruled. You didn't have to have the live house band. This little thing, licensed song, and it fits Page so well. Ooh. I hope it is. Look, if it's a one-off, it's perfect. This is great. Ghost Riders in the Air by the Outlaws. You can check it out on Spotify. It's the original. The original is from 1946. A whole bunch of people covered it. Johnny Cash, that supergroup, the Highwaymen, the one with Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, and who am I? I'm forgetting someone. Just fantastic stuff. There's all sorts of versions. There's a surf rock version by the Trashmen. There's a metal version by Children of Bodom. Tom Jones has a Leisure Suit version of it. Like, it's just one of those. But this fucking match. Page attacks Mox during his entrance, and they just go for it. They get into the ring, they start strong styling each other, and it's not very long until Mox has the razor wire. But Adam Page uses it against him, and he bleeds. Mox slugs him with a fistful of wire, and Jon Moxley has a fork. He pulls that out of his boot. Now, people are saying, why does Jon Moxley have a fork in his boot? Well, I think that when you're on the road as much as Jon Moxley, I think you always need to be ready. Have utensils at the ready, because you never know when you're going to have a little hunger, when you're going to have the need for a little food. And sometimes, it's not always finger food. Can't always be a sandwich. Can't always be a hot dog, a burger. Sometimes, you'll be like, here's a bowl of chili. Here's here's a ribeye. Here's a chicken pot pie. Well, that's cool. I'm prepared. I got my utensils right here in my boot. That's survival tactics. This is why Jon Moxley will survive the nuclear apocalypse, because he's got utensils in his boots. He traps Adam Page in a triangle, and he starts stabbing him in the forehead with a fork, much to the despair of the wrestling community who are not watching the match. A barbed wire chair is in play. It's set up in the corner. Adam Page crashes head first into it, single leg on the chair as well, and stomps by Mox. He slams the chair across Adam Page's back. We've got lacerations, blood. It's not even a question anymore. Are they bleeding at this point, Warren? Yes. Mox sets up 2 chairs, side by side, upright. Power bombs Adam Page right on top of the chairs. Adam Page then a little later on wraps himself in the wire and does a Norihara moonsault. Then we have barbed wire boards into play. We have 2 set up on the floor in different locations. Mox goes into the ring. He disappears under the ring for a while and comes back with bricks and chains. But bricks! He makes a nice little pile with the chain and he pile drives Adam Page right on the chains. Page fights out of a crossface. Deadeye avoided into a suplex. Oh, and he cracks Adam Page's hand between the bricks, right? He puts the hand between 2 bricks and he stomps on the bricks. Bricks! Adam Page lands a King Kong lariat, does a sack of shit onto the barbed wire chair, and a Deadeye as well. Mox throws Adam Page off of the top rope through the board on the floor. The barbed wire board. Insane. Back in the ring, Mox lands a King Kong lariat. Adam Page fires up, gets some strikes in, no-sells another lariat from Mox. Goes for the buckshot carrier. Buckshot lariat. What are we talking about? Doesn't work. Mox hits the Death Rider. He stomps the head on the bricks. Mox thinks he's won. He's letting the ref count, but Page is back up. Rear naked choke. Adam Page passes out. Mox thinks he's won again, but Adam Page is back up. Lariat choke. Low blow by Mox. Page beans Mox with a brick. Mox is covered in himself in chains. He says, motherfucker, if you're gonna come after me, it's gonna hurt you too. Page lands the buckshot lariat as Mox is covered in chains. Mox is right back up. Page lariats him over the top rope, grabs onto the chains, and chokes him over the top rope. What a perfect, dangerous, yet perfect spot. Mox taps. Adam Page wins a decisive victory. Match of the year contender. Extraordinary stuff. It is one of the most violent matches I have seen in a while, and not just because of what they did, but because of the energy and the truth that they brought to what they were doing. That's what made it significant. Because look, I see a couple of you in the chat here. I know a couple of you watch death matches on the indie circuit. You'll watch, you'll watch the, Akira and so on and so forth. You'll watch some Matt Tremont, and so will I. I partake. But this is not just like, okay, let's do zany things with the light tubes. The tale, this is when we talk about stories in wrestling, right? And people then will be like, it's like, oh, for the past 3 weeks, they've been running, trying to find who stole his hat. Like, who cares? When you talk about a story, this is it. Transmitting the tale of 2 guys who want to beat each other up because they don't like each other. Viscerally and truly, to the point that they're ready to take ungodly risks with their body against each other. So it's not just, you can get wilder shit than this on the independent circuit. You can get wilder shit that, in H2O on the indies, absolutely. But nothing this visceral, nothing this true. Professional wrestlers doing professional wrestling things makes professional wrestling great. And this, as our boy Bill Bodkin pointed out in the chat, was a love letter to violence. This was a reminder of, despite how goofy and beautiful and athletic wrestling can be, it can also be just dirty and disgusting and wincing. You can just look at this and be like, this is insane. So when I have people the next day going around Twitter, a fork, they're not watching. You know, they're not into they're not into what's going on. They see the imagery. They're like watching a TikTok, right? And they see like something funny on TikTok and they skip to the next one. They just like, all they see is a guy, stabbing another guy with a fork. But everything makes sense. When you were watching this, you're like, of course Mox is going to do this. This was brutal and brilliant. It's one of the best brawls I have seen. It's on the top. This is defining shit right here. And no one should ever challenge Adam Page to a Texas death match ever again because he wins them all the time. It's his signature match. Right? Isn't it? Adam Cole, Lance Archer, Jon Moxley. And right, yes, see, Moxley said it himself. You're not an animal like me. He warned us in that brilliant pre-tape promo that he was going to get gruesome and out of control. This is AEW. This is pro wrestling. And you get a little something for everyone. You get a little something for everyone on every show. And maybe this wasn't for you. And like I tweeted out, like if you didn't like this match, if you did not like this match, or if you have reservations about it, we cannot be compatible in what we like in wrestling. Because to me, this is exactly how it should feel. And Hangman continues his ascension. Hangman has never been, look, I know like the popular thing is to say, oh, Hangman is so underused, but he's not underused. He's used perfectly. Hangman is probably the most well-booked wrestler this company has. From when they started this goddamn company to where he is today, everything connects. Everything makes sense. And he has always been in the top mix. We're talking about Ricky Starks not being, we need to build Ricky Starks. Well, what about Darby Allin? But no one talks about Hangman anymore because Hangman is a proof of success. He's a proof of concept that AEW can do it. They're doing it with others, but they do it with Hangman and they do it really well. Hangman is an AEW star. He had his time in Ring of Honor, sure. Oh yeah, he wrestled in Japan, but never on this level. Never as a top guy in the company. He is the ace of the company. Delivered. And Moxley, what are you going to say about, how can anyone not appreciate just the sheer level of work that this man puts into professional wrestling? I know it's a work. Every time wrestlers work, that's what they do. They say things to get you to buy pay-per-views, to get you to watch the matches, to get excited for their matches. But if there is one thing that I sincerely believe every time when Jon Moxley says that he loves this shit and he loves beating people up and he lives for it, I believe it thoroughly. You tell me about this. Dean Ambrose cuts that promo in 2014, I'm like, okay, sure. But I believe every word he says. Is it true or not? To a degree, there's truth to what he says. He could not make it up to the point. He could not be that good a liar and not have it be so transparent in the ring that he absolutely enjoys what he does, that this is what he was built for. There is no more professional wrestler than Jon Moxley out there. It is ridiculous. Loved this match. It was my match of the night right up until. And I mean, we're splitting hairs at this point. God damn, this ruled. Now we had to cool down a little bit. And you see, this is why I say this show was well put together. Wardlow defeated Samoa Joe to become, once again, TNT champion. And they brawl on the floor. And you know, if you recall my preview last week, I said, you know what I want out of this match? I want an 8-minute sprint. This is what I want out of this match. I want these two hosses to just like go relentlessly on each other for 8 minutes, call it a night. No rest spots, no, just like barrel down each other. Give us like, you know, Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, but not spamming finishers, right? Just like go for it. But that's not quite what we got. And I think it dragged a little bit midway in the match. I mean, we got some great things like, yeah, Samoa Joe diving, Wardlow doing that run-up corkscrew dive that is just fantastic. Spinebuster by Wardlow in an F5 and a swanton. Joe's just fantastic. Joe is such a fantastic, menacing presence. Like, this is a guy, he can't go like he used to, right? But he is such a goddamn master and confident, understands what his character is, how he projects, that he's able to make up. He was able to make up for any shortcomings that he has physically with just being Samoa Joe. Surprising win by Wardlow, choking Joe out. So adding a little something to the arsenal, not just necessarily requiring to powerbomb multiple times a guy. And after the match, Powerhouse Hobbs was watching on in the audience and is there, and they're going to be fighting on Dynamite this week. I like the flow of the TNT title over the past week or so, from the Revolution, Face of the Revolution pay-per-view, Face of the Revolution ladder match, creating stakes for the winner for the Dynamite after Revolution. It's good. The match was okay, but look, you also have to follow up the fucking Texas Death Match. What are you gonna do? Like, what can you do? Respect for not putting the women's match here. That would have been murder. Bad faith murder. AEW World Tag Team title 4-way. The Guns retained their title against the Acclaimed, Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, and Danhausen and Orange Cassidy. What do you want me to say about this match? You all know that it's not my cup of tea. It doesn't interest me. This whole thing hasn't interested me. I hate the fatal four-way. I hate the fatal four-way so much. Excuse me. Don't call it a fatal four-way. I hate this four-way shit so much for tag teams. You have no idea. No clue. Because then it's suddenly Oh, but this is no DQs. Why the hell is everyone tagging in or not? Look, just do a Texas Tornado match. Just like go do it and save us all the embarrassment of the referee trying to direct traffic in a match that has no disqualifications. You know what I hated in this match? Aubrey keeping Max Caster from using the guitar on Jeff Jarrett. Why? It's no DQ. You have no part and parcel in this, Aubrey. It doesn't matter. Let him do it. You are there to count to 3 or check for a submission. That's all. Counting for... Are you going to count people out? It's no DQs. Orange Cassidy and Danhausen do comedy spots with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. It's fine. The Acclaim do the crowd-pleasing spots. It's fine. Danhausen punching Satnam Singh in the no-nos and Billy Gunn hitting the famous around Satnam. Got a huge reaction. Like, I know what this was for. This was to, see, again, positioning, waking the crowd back up, getting them back to a good level of energy so that when we get into the 1 hour thing, they're not quite dead, but they've been reignited a little bit. This show was perfectly paced. Don't get me wrong. I understand what this match was for, but I have no analysis for you here. I got no analysis. I don't care. I didn't care about this match from the get-go. I barely care about the Acclaimed. Personally, I understand the appeal of the Acclaim and good for them, and I'm a big Anthony Bowens guy. But they're not for me. The Guns are not for me. None of this is for me. Who cares? But, if you want some analysis, if you want someone to step back, put their feelings away for a second here and just look, despite the fact that I never cared about this match, never thought it was interesting, I'm already wasting too much time talking about it right now. If you want me to, I will remove myself and tell you very clearly, I understand what this match was for. It was placed in the perfect spot. It did exactly what it had to do. Reignite the audience, but not too much just before the big main event where you're going to need your entire energy for an hour plus. Okay, I get it. I really do. Doesn't mean I like it. Doesn't mean I don't understand why it's there. After the match, FTR show up. The new work is getting people mad on Twitter. That's the new work. It's wrestlers saying things that the fan base doesn't want to see. Oops. Oh, did I post a picture with the WWE logo just slightly out of frame on a piece of paper? Oops. I can't wait for April to come around when our contracts are up. Here's the thing. Then people get mad at Dax for doing this shit. They get mad at him. But he's doing his job. He's being a worker. You know what I'm talking about. They get angry at him for doing what he does best, which is being a fucking worker. Telling you things to get a reaction. Just a couple of months ago, and not even a couple of months, and maybe a month ago, month and a half, he was in an interview saying, or maybe on his podcast, I don't remember, but he was saying, I get along great with Tony Khan. He's the boss, so boss, but, he's always been good to us and always been respecting us. Then all of a sudden it's like, I can't wait for April to come around. If you're mad at Dax Harwood for working you, You should instead be applauding him. I sat back, I watched this go, and I was like, look, I was expecting FTR to show up at the Casino Battle Royal thing and then be added to this match, to add a little pizzazz, a little star power to it, a little something to get my blood going. But I understand why they didn't. I understand why they're going down this path. I don't think they're gonna re-sign all this shit about going elsewhere. It's like everyone, who cares? Everyone's mad at Dax. Who cares? This is the best work I've seen in a while. This is the best work I've seen in a long time. Yeah. Because people are legitimately mad at him. Legitimately angry. And why are they legitimately angry? Because he was saying bad things about their promotion of choice, about their favorite promotion. And yet he's going to go back and work there. So he mustn't be that miserable. Y'all, you're getting worked, and it's great, and it's fine, and you should embrace it instead of being mad at FTR, which is the new thing. And this is the wild thing, and I see this from people also who bemoan sometimes. Oh man, it was so much more fun back when there was kayfabe and people weren't all aware of all these details. Well, look at what the wrestlers are doing. They're fucking with how the news is delivered, with how things are delivered. Rumors are started. They're screwing with it to maintain some form of kayfabe, and these kayfabe wishers are mad. I don't get it. I think it's brilliant. I think he did fantastic work. Good for you, Dax. Good for you, Cash. And then we get to the main event, AEW World Title 60-minute Iron Man match where MJF defeats Bryan Danielson to retain his world championship. Should we point out before we go on any further? Should we go on any further here? I'm saying that there are no former, except for the House of Black, right? There are no former WWE guys who defeated AEW guys in title matches tonight. Well, even out of title matches, in singles matches. Like I said, outside of the House of Black, where you had Buddy and Malachi, all AEW talent going over the WWE guys, former WWE guys. I think we need to emphasize that, because sometimes that gets lost in the discourse when the opposite happens. What a match. An exquisite match. It's already been said on the chat, and I'm going to tell you. I have a tremendous amount of blind spots in Ring of Honor. I have filled up a lot of missing things. I am aware of a lot of things that did happen. I've watched a lot of matches, but there's continuity. There's some. I wasn't watching Ring of Honor regularly back in the 2000s. So there's a lot of stuff about Bryan Danielson's career there that, despite the fact that I've watched multiple major matches, there's probably some stuff that I'm missing, right? And everyone tells me, and they were saying on the card as well, Danielson is the master of the 60-minute Iron Man match. And I believe it. The ones that I've seen him do are spectacular. And then you have people talking about WrestleMania 12. This was the first thing that a lot of people were coming out and saying, better than Shawn and Brett WrestleMania 12. And that was the one that comes out the more often because, of course, it's a much more high-profile match than what was happening in Ring of Honor in the in the mid 2000s. So, for the interest of my own personal vision on things, I went back today because I'm on March break. I could do whatever I want. I went back, and today I decided to pop in Brett versus Sean from WrestleMania 12. Give it a go, because this is considered to be, like, this is heralded, lauded as one of the all-time greatest, if not the greatest, Iron Man match of all time. And I gave it the full hour watch, and the final stretch of that match is outstanding. But I will tell you, look, if anything, that match did not age well. And you look at it in contrast to this, and I have to say that it does not measure up to MJF versus Danielson. It really doesn't. It's a very good match and a great match. But I think there's a lot of circumstances, in the match and the finish, that make it feel good, make it feel like a big deal. But the match itself is fine. And like I said, the final stretch I think is outstanding. But maybe this is what people were afraid of when they were anticipating this match here, the Danielson MJF match. Maybe this is what they were anticipating when they were saying, well, are people going to stay connected for a full hour? Because there are at points in Brett versus Sean where the audience is just like droning along. So I can say with a certain amount of certitude, that this match is better than Sean and Brett, WrestleMania 12. And I think it's the best Iron Man match I've ever seen. This might actually go down as one of the greatest wrestling matches I've ever seen. I don't remember having seen such a great hour-long Broadway match like this in such a long time. This trumps so many things. This was excellent. And such a great tale within the match that connects to everything happening outside of the ring, to the whole build. DGMC left a super chat. Thank you very much. Just to add into the conversation here. He says, for the past decade, Cole versus Callahan from PWG was my personal GOAT Iron Man match. MJF and Bryan soared over that bar with ease. 21 characters left. I think there's a consensus on this. Look, at the very least, I will tell you this is one of the greatest wrestling matches I've ever seen. This is a match of the year. You're going to hear about it it's going to appear on multiple lists by the end of the year. Look. The entire build to this match where of course Danielson's shoulder came into play, because that's what MJF had been building to this entire time. MJF's knee was an issue here when Danielson started working that. They take their time. Danielson is, from the get-go, he's being a prick to MJF, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sticking up for MJF here. They're responding with hip tosses on each other, and he's twisting him up, and he's got a big grin on his face. He's like, what are you even doing here, kid? You think you can hang with me? What are you, insane? Tit for tat, both of them. But MJF is keeping up, and that's the early part of this match here. That they're going tit for tat, but MJF is keeping up. He starts to stall, of course. And as he stalls, the crowd goes nuts. And he's going into the crowd. And he throws a drink on a kid. And we're not going to spend a second more, talking about that discourse. I've been overloaded with that. Because again, this is an event that was reported, brought back, that became a bigger thing than it should. It's MJF being a heel, being a guy that you're not supposed to like, doing despicable things. And then that becomes the discourse. That becomes the thing that everyone latches onto. When you have one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time that you could spend your entire days talking about, we're going to flip it onto one insignificant little thing that has nothing, no connection with what happened in the rest of the match. And people are going to get mad. There's going to be discussion around it. I've already said too much. I don't want to harp on it. We have got to let MJF be a bastard. He's trying so hard for you to hate him. He's doing his best. Again, the kayfabe crowd is like, I wish kayfabe was back. Well, here's a guy who's living the gimmick. But not like that. Anyway. Get some back body drops and so on and so forth. Look. The work picks up. They fight on the floor. We get launched into the barricades. MJF starts turning up arm trap moves back in the ring. Just fantastic stuff. Headbutts by Bryan Danielson, who lands a sunset flip powerbomb as well. Corner kicks. There's a Frankensteiner. Hurricane Rana that's blocked by MJF into a backbreaker. Great stuff. Danielson tries to skin the cat, but his arm, his shoulder, not letting him do it. He eats a kick. Max Topica and Hilos. Danielson gets out of the way, so Max lands on his legs, but he tweaks his knee. Back in the ring, MJF, of all things, lands a Peach Thunder Driver, which is Momo Watanabe's, from Stardom, Momo Watanabe's finisher, which is a pump-handled, stuffed pile driver. And he's pulling that out. It's like, there you go, you work rate nerds. I'm bringing in Joshi moves. Anyway, Danielson lands a Busaiku knee. He gets the first pin. He goes for another one, but MJF low blows him, gets DQ'd, but then lands 2 consecutive pins. And the commentary at first had said straight off the bat, right? They had underscored this, and I should have picked up on it. You should have picked up on it. Maybe you did, but I didn't. Should have picked up on it when they said there's no rest between pins. Just like, we're keeping the ball rolling. We should have seen that coming. Because MJF made the best out of it, evened it out at 2. Keeping it level. So he's not behind. He didn't try to get the upper hand. He just didn't want to be losing. So they fight some more. There's a figure 4 by Danielson, working the knee. MJF sets Danielson on a timekeeper's table, and then he does a flying elbow drop all the way from the top rope through the table in a perfect spot. Perfect. They go back in the ring, then on the floor again. MJF tombstones Danielson through what's left of the table. I was up out of my seat because the table was crooked. It was like on a half leg. Flies off the top with a strike. Does Danielson at some point, and he's just hurling his body at MJF. This has been attrition. They're beating the shit out of each other. Danielson's not, he's like, I could do a pretty move, but no, he's exhausted. And I liked how this added to the story. These guys are so busted up, wailing on each other. And they're just throwing themselves at each other now. Does a spider superplex. diving headbutt. MJF gets busted open. Busaiku knee, label lock. MJF taps. Oh, but before that, there was a heat seeker. Excuse me. A little before that, there was a heat seeker by MJF who got a pin, and he monologued. And I was like, no, Max, don't do that. Don't do that. And I hope this doesn't become a trend in pro wrestling. Here's the thing. We like to talk about AEW as being an alternative to WWE. Well, don't start doing WWE things in AEW, right? Keep that shit away. You know, if people want mid-match monologues, they know exactly who to find. They know exactly. It's on Friday Night SmackDown on Fox, where they can find people, one guy, recount everything that's happened in the feud just to make sure your stupid brain didn't figure it out, right? I don't need this. So I hope this does not become a thing. Even if it's in Max's interest as a heel to do this kind of thing, which I can get behind, I don't want this bleeding into AEW. If this is an alternative and not what the market leader is doing, then let's not do what the market leader is doing, right? So we're 3-all with the Busaiku knee. Danielson tries to go again, but MJF blocks and locks in the salt of the earth. Danielson rolls through, tries the label lock. Max reverses it into a pin, so Danielson is forced to kick out, and he gets right back into the salt of the earth. Danielson is struggling. MJF drags him back to the middle of the ring, locks in the free arm so that Danielson doesn't reach the ropes, and even reaches out to the free leg, and he's tied up Danielson. He's stretching the hell out of him. Danielson still manages to break free, though. Great segment. We get more and more strikes. We're at the 5-minute mark. We get another heat seeker by MJF, but Danielson kicks out. 3-minute mark. Avalanche tombstone by MJF. I could not believe what was going on. But MJF blew out his knee on the landing. He can't cover. When he finally does, Danielson kicks out and reverses it into a single leg crab. MJF now is struggling. And it goes down to the wire. The bell rings. That's when MJF taps. Crowd starts chanting bullshit because the match ends in a draw. I myself am chanting bullshit. But then Tony Khan books himself as the top babyface in the company and announces via Tony Schiavone that this match is going into sudden death. Crowd goes nuts. I could not have booked this more perfectly. This is spot on great. The guys do the 60 minutes. Everyone is disappointed at the finish. No, we're going into sudden death. This crowd, everyone who was wringing their hands, and then no one is going to stay hot for 60 minutes. This crowd was hot for the entirety of the match. Why? Because it was perfectly paced, smartly put together. The big spots at the right moments. This match ruled. So we're in sudden death here. And it starts with a low blow and everyone's throwing their hands up and they're like, ah. So it's not really extended time. But no, Danielson kicks out of the pin attempt. We're going here. MJF, he's feeling the pressure, pulls out the Dynamite Diamond ring. It comes into play, but instead he eats a poison run. I can't even use it. Busaiku knee. MJF kicks out. We're back to the single leg by Danielson. And MJF is struggling like this. He's going like this. And Bryce Remsburg, the referee, sees the Dynamite Diamond ring and he slips it off his finger. And everyone is like, MJF is going to lose this. He has no more tricks in his book. But he as MJF, reaches the ropes to force a break. But smart man MJF, as he's holding the ropes, he's tapping. Danielson thinks he's won. MJF rolls to the floor, grabs an oxygen tank that they had been administrating to MJF, they being the medical staff. They had been administrating to MJF when the match ended. He grabs it. Danielson comes over the side of the ring, bends over to drag him back up. He gets clocked in the head with the tank. Bryce didn't see a thing because Bryce wasn't leaning over, didn't see the maneuver. He crawls in. Everyone thinks it's done. He's got him locked in a submission, but Danielson will not give in. He's fighting to the very end. Eventually, he does tap. But this was not a cheap finish. Absolutely fantastic. Great. Just greatness personified. MJF in this match. Let's break this down. MJF in this match got exactly what he wanted. He's coming out of this match saying, I beat the guy that you all say is the greatest of all time. That you say that he's so great. I beat him, so that will make me the greatest. This works right into all of the insecurity issues that he has. This is what he needed. And he had all these contingency plans set up that didn't end up working for him. And even when he did cheat to get the victory, even there Danielson was still hot on his tail. He dragged Danielson out to the very limits of what he's capable of doing. That's fantastic. That's the story here. This is what we're going to get out of Danielson, out of MJF moving forward. He cheated, but not in any way that we thought he was going to do. And even when he did, he still had to struggle to get Danielson to lose, to tap. It's outstanding. What are we talking about here? So what are we going to get on Dynamite this week if MJF shows up? He didn't show up the week after he won the title at Full Gear. He came in 2 weeks later. So next time he shows up on Dynamite, we are going to have an extremely self-satisfied, cocky guy who's going to say, I proved you all wrong, and that's all he wanted. He just wanted to be able to go back and say, I beat Bryan Danielson in an Iron Man match. That's all he wanted, and he's got it. And he pulled out a fantastic performance. Danielson, we all expected this out of him. But Danielson, what kind of all-timer career year is he having right now? Currently right now. It's been insane. Week after week on free TV, just having extraordinary matches. Matches that you could argue could end up on match of the year list. And then he turns this up. And now he's talking about wanting Tony Khan to let him go do the G1 this year. Danielson's been hinting about his career wrapping up. We're getting towards the short end of it. And if he wants to go out with a bang, if he wants to go out having a career year that defies even the best of his greatest halcyon years in Ring of Honor, we are so lucky to be seeing it. Don't know what kind of pace he's going to maintain for the rest of the year. It's March. The first quarter of the year is not even done. But if he keeps up this pace, this is an all-timer year for him. He's going to go out with a bang. And MJF, as a worker in this match, just excellent, pristine stuff. This is a wrestler who believes in less is more, who believes in the presence that he can create. He is a storyteller. And that's why his matches with CM Punk were so good, because that's what Punk is as well. And in this one here, his job was to work his ass off while coming across as being outclassed, yet somehow managing to continue through. Why? Because he is good. Because he can't be champion if he's a total schmuck. He just can't. This match ruled. An excellent match to close off an excellent pay-per-view. I'm ranking it up there with All Out 2021 as my all-time AEW favorite pay-per-views. Right up there. This ruled. An extraordinary show. Before we get back into reviewing stuff, we found out today that it was reported today, actually, that MLW, in their ongoing lawsuit, or their complaint, at least, against WWE, amended said complaint, which the judge had asked them to do a couple of weeks ago, asked them to review their complaint and amend it, because they were ready to throw this out, but they gave MLW a chance to amend their antitrust complaint. And they did yesterday. It's been reported today, citing exclusivity, the exclusivity agreement with Peacock as further evidence. So let's break this down a little bit. I got the article off of course, WrestleNomics. Brandon Thurston doing the Lord's work here. MLW alleges that WWE's agreement with Peacock, which reportedly keeps non-WWE pro wrestling content off of the NBC Universal streaming platform, contributes to its antitrust case against WWE, according to MLW's amended complaint filed yesterday. MLW's new broadcaster, Reels, recently made a deal that will allow the channel to be streamed live on Peacock, except for when MLW Underground airs on Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Variety last week reported that MLW's run on Reels is only to last 10 weeks. Reels later made a statement saying the network hadn't yet made a decision about MLW programming. The comment didn't clarify exactly how long MLW would air on Reels. The original complaint, which was filed more than a year ago in January 2022, was dismissed last month, but the judge allowed MLW to amend its claims. Judge Edward J. Davila ruled that MLW has not included sufficient facts to plausibly allege a relevant antitrust product market. So the rewritten filing more narrowly defines the market relevant to claims that WWE is violating the Sherman Antitrust Act as the U.S. market for pro wrestling media content rather than the U.S. pro wrestling market more broadly. So this is a little twist that they're adding. We're talking about content versus, running shows and having a streaming service and all that jazz. We're talking about like available licensing opportunities. MLW argues exclusivity agreements like those WWE reportedly made with Peacock, which prevents the platform from distributing wrestling content that doesn't belong to WWE, isn't the norm in the media industry. As a parenthesis, look, I'm not a legal expert, but I would assume that, if you sign the right, if your network signs the rights to the NFL, right, and you're broadcasting, the USFL, and the NFL says, well, we'll give you the rights, but you have to drop USFL programming. Well, what do you I think that's something that's negotiable at the very least. I don't think this is something out of the ordinary. So they added a few things into their narrative here. into the amended complaint. They added a description of the wrestling business history in which WWE has been the dominant force since WCW went out of business in 2001 and was acquired by WWE. The 1990s are described as a high point for the wrestling industry, with strong television viewership amid competition from WCW and ECW. MLW further claims that WWE moving its program Raw to TNN in 2000 led to the cancellation of ECW from the same network, which later resulted in ECW's assets being bought as well by WWE. This is something that indeed happened, in the sense that WWE did negotiate with TNN back in the day to get Raw on the network, and TNN dropped ECW. But ECW, you cannot say that this is a direct. You cannot say that this is a direct. It's not an A to B correlation where ECW folded because they lost TNN. ECW wasn't in a great financial spot back at that point. It really was a question of time, and I don't think the TNN deal would have saved them. It really was that bad. MLW raises more specific claims than in its prior complaint, which also allege unfair practices related to venues and talent. The suit alleges that WWE executive Paul Levesque called Madison Square Garden in 2018 to urge the venue to cancel its scheduled event to be held by Ring of Honor and New Japan, the eventual G1 Supercard that took place on WrestleMania weekend in April 2019. MSG did not cancel the show, but rescheduled it only after Sinclair Broadcasting, ROH's then parent company, threatened legal action, MLW claims. This has been a long-standing rumor. According to MLW, WWE blocked AEW from running at Heritage Bank Center in Cincinnati in 2019 and early 2020. I would not be surprised about that either. And there's also, the that New Japan event, 3 years ago, that the show was threatened to not be able to run because for some reason the paramedics were called off the show. They were said, no, there's no show. The show started like 40 minutes late or something like that. When it comes to, because the ambulances did show back up. When it comes to interfering with talent, MLW says WWE hired away then current MLW champion Stefan Strickland, Swerve. WWE's talent executive at the time, Canyon Seaman, is said to have encouraged Strickland to opt out of his MLW contract. In July 2021, WWE allegedly hired Davey Boy Smith Jr. away from MLW. Smith subsequently only appeared in one dark match for WWE, which, quote unquote, made clear WWE's intent to impair MLW's ability to build its brand and viewership by removing one of its successful wrestlers. Again, I might be misremembering things, and I could be completely wrong here, but it seems to me that I'm pretty sure that MLW wasn't doling out contracts back then. Was Swerve on a contract? I don't think so. I think this is fishy. MLW says AEW demanded WWE stop contacting many AEW wrestlers who WWE were trying to hire away. This was recently things that were being brought up by Tony Khan and whatnot, right? The claim seems related to AEW CEO Tony Khan's assertion that AEW wrestlers have told him WWE has approached those wrestlers and tried to get them to break their contracts. MLW also points out WWE ran 2 premium live events on Labor Day weekend, one the day before AEW's All Out pay-per-view and another earlier in the same day, which the plaintiff alleges was intended to prevent the success of the AEW event. To illustrate how, sure. Yes. I can get with that. To illustrate how hard it is to compete with WWE, MLW claims AEW has yet to be profitable since launching in 2019. So there's some things here that, again, like, you know, I'm no lawyer, and I'm definitely not, you know, the most well-versed individual in these things here when it comes to the, you know, antitrust legal battles and whatnot. But I'll tell you one thing. A lot of this feels weak. And unless Court Bauer has a lot of evidence here, I don't think, I can't see this going forward. Does he have evidence that Triple H did this? Because if he doesn't, like, there's a lot of claims being made here. I'm very excited to see WWE's response, because they are going to respond to this. They have to. And maybe just might get thrown back to the floor. But there's things here that there's things here that that are entirely consistent with WWE's business model of driving people into the dirt. You know, the basic principle of what MLW is saying here is that, you know, they've been doing this for years, for decades, and that they are impeding on the growth of pro wrestling as a whole. And I cannot disagree with that, because this is the stance I have regarding Vince. When we talk about Vince McMahon and people say, oh, well, he made wrestling better. No, he didn't. He didn't make wrestling better. He made WWE better. But wrestling as a whole, from a thing that existed, that did not exist in smoky bar rooms, that was filling out arenas across the country every weekend, depending on the territory you were in. Every weekend, you'd have a Cow Palace, from the Cow Palace to a fucking Madison Square Garden. Every weekend, there would be a big show somewhere, people filling out arenas, to one group running the show because they bought everyone else out of business. The wrestling business is not better off, and it has not been better off under the vigil of WWE. And it's difficult to argue against that. But, you know, so when the lawsuit comes over here and says, you know, well, they've been tampering, you know, they've been keeping people from using arenas and stuff like that. That's the dirty business model that WWE has always had and has always run with impunity. The rest, all of these segments here, like exclusivity and media and stuff like that, I can't buy it. I don't think that's necessarily an antitrust situation. And, you know, alleging that executives were calling arenas to postpone shows, and there's a lot of hearsay. It's a lot of stuff happening here. AEW is not profitable. No, but, you know, it's not. Don't forget, like, revenue does not equate to profits, right? You can be running shows, you could be making $100 million in a year, but if your shows cost $200 million, I'm just throwing numbers out there to expose a point. I'm not saying that those are AEW's actual numbers. I don't think, like, I wouldn't be surprised I don't think AEW is necessarily profitable. The Khans are rich. The Khans have money. It's not an issue for them. We've said, there's been a lot of talk that a wrestling company who wants to make it these days, on this level, on a national level, they need the deep pockets of of this type of financial backer, of a football team rich, to make it in the media landscape that it is today. And MLW just, I think, is struggling, but I think it's punching maybe a little too much above its weight. It's going to be an interesting response to see from WWE, and based on that response, then we'll see if we move forward with this. But I don't see anything here that a judge would go, yeah, okay, let's dig into this. I'd love for this to happen. I'd love WWE going to court over this, and then having but even if this moves forward, I am 100% convinced that this is settled outside of court, which is WWE's MO, and Court Bauer gets a big fat check, and this is all he's really looking forward to. So he's not, prove me wrong otherwise, but the outcome regardless is not for the betterment of pro wrestling. We're not trying to set a precedent here. This is Court Bauer trying to get a payday from WWE because he feels slighted on multiple levels. Whatever, dude. I think the fact that AEW exists as a viable number 2 in the market right now serves to disprove Court Bauer's point. We'll see how this develops, because for sure this isn't done. Ring of Honor on Honor Club, the first show that happened on March 2nd, the first of the weekly shows that are now going to grace us moving forward. Look, I am not going to break this down point by point. I'm not going to do a complete match breakdown. Maybe next week. We'll see how things go off. But I kind of want to give you some thoughts that I have. How about that? Like a general review. And you'll understand why I don't necessarily want to break down, like do my usual thing. You'll understand in a second. Overall, I thought the show was good. A good pro wrestling show. Lots of great stuff on it. I thought the main event was quite good. I like the idea of Claudio as a final boss for the promotion. And we saw a lot of great stuff between him and AR Fox playing off each other quite well. AR Fox, getting his shit in, as you say, as he tried to avoid Claudio's hard-hitting offense as much as possible. But, yeah, it was very good, but it was good. But it didn't blow my socks off. My match of the night was Josh Woods versus Konosuke Takeshita. Just incredible work in this one, all around. Great match by two big hard hitters. Woods just throwing him around with gut wrenches and doctor bombs and suplexes. And I thought Josh Woods here, had the best showing from anyone on the show. And if you weren't familiar with his work, I'm sure he came across as a revelation. And Takeshita, of course, doing what he does best, striking, and that incredible chaos theory he pulled off at the end, right? Where just from the wheelbarrow position, like a high angle, it was just great shit. Loved the match. I was thrilled that Willow Nightingale got so much shine. That woman is a superstar. She has something that no other wrestler has to offer. perfectly paired with Lady Frost, who worked really well as well. I thought she had a really good showing. Her moonsault, spot on great. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Blake Christian was also very good. The spot where Christian does a Fosbury's flop and Zack Sabre Jr. catches him in a cravat was just prime Zack. And he calls out Danielson during the match. Oh, you cheeky Englishman. Christian is an extremely smooth pro wrestler, transitioning from move to move. I thought the finish was a little wonk, but overall, I enjoyed it. Another fun defense of the New Japan World Television title. We had the Renegade Twins on the card as well against Madison Rayne and Sky Blue in a losing effort. Man, look, the Renegade Twins have improved dramatically, and I have been very low on them, and I didn't quite grasp it, but there's something that clicked. I really like them now. I think they've grown into a very interesting act and a solid tag team on top of that. And on top of that, we had a good mix of former Ring of Honor stars to make it feel Ring of Honor-y. You don't just want the AEW folks there, right? It's like, the opener with Mark Briscoe versus Slim J. There you go. That's completely Ring of Honor right there. The Kingdom were on the show. Christopher Daniels, the vet, was there from the start. Now he's still there. So yeah, like overall, and I like the look of the show. For some reason this created discourse again. I don't know. I enjoyed the look, the red, the black. Yes, they're still, they're shooting at the same spot where they shoot Dark Elevation, and I think maybe that's jarring for some people, but Caprice and Ian are fantastic. No shocker there, but I'm glad. These are very strong positives that we have to put forward here. But I feel like this was one of AEW's YouTube shows. Just packing in matches with all sorts of people. Now, and I don't want to judge too harshly because I get it, we're starting things off. We're kicking things off, so, we have to introduce you to people, and there's a lot of people that we want to introduce because the roster is so big. So, I can understand that Tony's like, we have to pack in as many people as we can. And this is leading, of course, to Final Battle, which is just in a couple of weeks, so I get it, But it did give me that YouTube wrestling show vibe, which I don't know if I'm really behind. Now, don't get me wrong, it's like, there were attractions, Zack Sabre Jr. being an outsider coming in, and a big time star from outside of the promotion, from Japan coming in. Like, that's a very Ring of Honor thing to do. That's part of the tradition of Ring of Honor. Don't get me wrong. But look, I'm not the first to say this, so I'll echo it at the very least because I think it's a feeling I share. I think there needs to be. I think for this to really feel significant, there has to be a separation between the rosters, between the AEW and Ring of Honor rosters, and fast. And there has to be a clear division. And you can't have people showing up on 1 week on AEW and then we have to stop this. If Eddie Kingston says, I quit AEW, then shows up in Ring of Honor, only to have AEW people cross over into Ring of Honor and then him maybe showing up on AEW eventually, then that defeats the purpose. If anything, Eddie Kingston's dismissal of AEW should signify there is a line that is drawn now. And you can cross it on either side, but you're not coming back to the other side. And we need to build Ring of Honor stars that haven't been AEW attractions, which is why I don't want to pummel look at all these matches too much, because You know, there were still people on this card. You know, Claudio, Sky Blue, Madison Rain, Takeshita, even Christopher Daniels to a degree. Well, even more to a degree. He is an AEW guy. There's a lot of AEW people that were still on this card and are acting as AEW attractions. Now, I understand the balance that you have to create here as well. It's like if you start off fresh with a bunch of no-names, what are you going to do? Well, if the last few months of crossover between Ring of Honor and AEW served, if only to get AEW people finally firmly squared into the Ring of Honor environment once that's done, then it will have been worth it, and then that makes sense. But then don't start sending them back to AEW television. And hopefully that makes sense. You know, we haven't seen Athena really on AEW, like on Dynamite, really. Well, we've seen her a little bit, but not on Dynamite. But, you know, she hasn't been a part of Dynamite since winning the women's championship on the ring from Mercedes Martinez. So have we been seeing these divisions? Does this mean that now that Samoa Joe has lost the TNT title, he's excluded from AEW? There has to be a division here. And I think it's profitable for both companies. It'll be good for AEW. It'll be good for Ring of Honor if there is that division. Because otherwise it'll just feel like another episode of Dark. And I think that's something that that Tony Khan is going to have to think about moving forward, trying to make something here, trying to give a Ring of Honor its own feeling, its own ecosystem outside of AEW. That's going to be a challenge for him. And I understand why. So look, you know, I thought the show was good. Don't get me wrong, it's good pro wrestling. But, you know, I'm not blown away. I'm not blown away. I'm not chomping at the bit to watch it next week. I'll watch it, or this week, I should say. I'm going to watch it. You know, and I'm very confident that the pay-per-view is going to be excellent. The Ring of Honor pay-per-views since in the Tony Khan era have all been extraordinary, have all been great shows. So I don't see why this would underdeliver. Yeah, I mean, there's going to have to be a way to make this appointment viewing, because on top of that, you know, we're paying a subscription specifically for this on top of it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to follow how this stuff develops, how Ring of Honor on Honor Club develops, so that it feels like its own thing and can live outside of the umbrella of AEW. Let's wrap this up real quickly with the New Japan Cup update. I wanted to go into it a little more, but I'll try and save more time next week. We're going to have more matches in. I wanted to pull out the brackets and all of that and start breaking this down. But we have, as I'm recording this on March 7, we've had 2 nights of action in the New Japan Cup, of first round action, I should say. Night 1 took place in Kirkenhall on March 5th. The 2 matches we're going to talk about, the first one being Tetsuya Naito defeating El Phantasmo in the first round. I thought this was a pretty good match. I thought this was solidly worked. A lot of fun. I'm a little surprised that Naito got the win here, because I was expecting a big ass performance from El Phantasmo this time around, because they're going to want to, I can't say this enough. They really like El Phantasmo. They see big things for him. And I thought this was going to be a kickoff point. Clearly not. Or at least they're not going. See, sometimes You think they're going to do something big with the New Japan Cup, but sometimes they save whatever they have planned big for a guy, save it for the G1. That's sometimes something you see. So I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if we turn around and then El Fantasma has a brilliant G1 run this year. Anyway, this was good, some good chemistry here. Tetsuya Naito's in control for a good part of the match until a Manhattan drop by El Fantasma lands and an elbow dive as well. Swing DDT by Naito and an Esperanza. Destino is reversed into a Cypher Utaki. And El Fantasma applies the label lock and pulling out 2 moves from his tag team partner, Taiji Ishimori. Frankensteiner by ELP and a Thunder Kiss 86. Can't get the job done. But Tetsuya Naito tries to end the match with a Destino, but he can't. He has to roll up Phantasmo for the win. I enjoyed it. Fun match. But then the main event and the second match of the New Japan Cup, we had Sanada defeating Taichi. This was great. This was a great match. It started off with Sanada being Sanada. Doing drop kicks to the knee, Pescado to the floor. Taichi nopes it. Taichi exposes the floor and DDTs him on it. Fights back into the ring, but he eats a kick. And Taichi is trying to bring something out of Sanada. He's just trying, look, what are you doing? What are you doing? Do you want this? Do you want to fight? Come on. And Sanada does. He does fire up in this match. He gets some life into what he's doing. Like at first, we really see the Sanada that a lot of us are sick of seeing. The guy who just like sort of mails it in, homes it in a little bit, low energy. But Taichi, man, he brought something out of him here. Get some close near falls, including a razor thin Gedo clutch. Taichi lands a Saito with a bridge. Tiger Driver follows. Taichi lands an Axe Bomber. Sanada gets back up, locks in the skull end, hits 2 moonsaults. Taichi barely kicks out of those. They trade some strikes. Enziguri to the back of Sanada's head. Sanada lands a Black Mephisto, locks in the skull end, and Sanada debuts a new finisher to win the match, which the New Japan official website refers to as a modified DDT. Interesting. Was a little more of a spinny thing, but anyway. Look, I've been up and down the Sanada road. I thought he had something, and every time I sort of got behind it, he deflated stuff. But if this is the story that they want to run in this cup, that Sanada is not going to be the usual Sanada. He's going to wake himself up and he's going to, be fired up babyface Sanada and plow through the competition. Go for it. Do we want Sanada and Kazuchika Okada? That's something maybe that I'm not necessarily keen on, but I can get behind Sanada, this type of Sanada getting a decent run in the cup this year. But this was very good. This was a very, very, very good match. Good, solid, energetic crowd was into it. There was a lot to love in this match. Taichi and Sanada, man, they bring out the best out of each other every time. Apparently they're friends, legit friends. It shows. They've got extraordinary chemistry with each other. This was great. Then we move on to night 2 of the Cup. This one on March 6th, which took place again in Tokyo at the Ota City General Gymnasium. Shota Umino defeated Yujiro Takahashi. Look, this was kind of sloppy, and I'm not sure how much time I want to spend talking about it. Cage match went savage on this match. Like, they rated it, the inmates rated it like at a 3.6 or something like that out of 10. I don't think it was that terrible. Did I think it was good? No. Sloppy execution, sloppy DDTs. But I don't think it was terrible. I think it was a bad match. I don't think it's anything anyone should go back and watch. But then, look, they really want Shota to be the man, but geez, man, putting him in a match with Yujiro, that's setting him up for failure. I mean, he's so young at this, in a match with Yujiro, who just mails it in. Like, Yujiro doesn't give a shit anymore. Why would he? And we get the whole thing with the House of Torture distractions on top of that. Shota lands a Death Rider for the win. This match it's forgettable. It's not good, but it wasn't a complete disaster. But it shows that Shota isn't ready to guide folks out of matches. Guide matches with shit wrestlers is what I'm trying to say. There we go. He's not ready. No fault of his own. He's fresh out of the Young Lion system. And then you're like, yeah, let's go put him in a first round with Yujiro. And we get this snoozer. But the thing is that I'm starting to cool on Shota Umino. Like, to be honest, between this match and his match from a couple of weeks ago against Naito, I can accept the idea that Shota might not be able to shine in a match against Yujiro. But if Tetsuya Naito can't squeeze a good match out of this kid, I don't like things. What Shota needed here was something to cleanse the palate from the Naito match so that we could all be sitting here and going, oh, well, bump in the road. But look, 2 times is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. He's going forward in the tournament. His next opponent is going to be Zack Sabre Jr. So honestly, frankly, my expectations are this better be good, because he's going to be in the ring with a pro's pro and a guy who can work around his weaknesses and accentuate his strengths. Like, he's going to be in much better hands than with Yujiro. It's going to be a little bit of a do or die situation for me at this point. And finally, the last match we got was David Finlay defeating Tomohiro Ishii, and it was revealed during the introductions that David Finlay is Bullet Club. Not only is he Bullet Club, he's the guy that Gedo is going to be accompanying to the ring moving forward. Switchblade is officially done. And look who they put in this big first match. David Finlay's big first match since sending off Jay White into oblivion. Look who they slide him in here. New Japan MVP, Tomohiro Ishii. And Finlay comes out in his new gear, all in black, and it doesn't work. I don't like his gear. He needs a switch, and fast. The match starts before the bell. Ishii launches Finlay into the ramp. They wail on each other until Dave Finlay starts to work the arm, lands a senton, then works a knee. Power slam by Tomohiro Ishii. He overpowers Finlay in the corner. They slug it out, but Ishii is no-selling. It ends with a suplex. Finlay spears Ishii through the ropes to the floor, spears him onto the rail. Big blue thunder bomb in the ring. Drop toe holds. Finley drop toe holds Ishii into the turnbuckles. You get a series of suplexes and spears and lariats. Rebound lariat by Dave Finley. Powerbomb by Ishii and a flipping cutter by Finley. Some back and forth running lariat, sliding lariat by Tomohiro Ishii. They're laying into each other, but Finley gets the trash panda for the win. The fighting Finleys going at it, continuing down this path. So Finley advances. His next opponent is going to be Great O'Khan. I'm fully expecting Dave Finley to go to the semifinals of his side of the bracket, at the very least. Like, I don't think he's going to go all the way, but I think he's going to go to the semis. Because again, I think we're going to go a bit down a predictable route here for the cup. With El Fantasma already being knocked out, I was like, well, okay, maybe it's not going to be some surprising booking here. I don't think we're going to get any shocks. And I mean, if anyone was shocked with Dave Finley winning this match and moving forward and maybe having a great New Japan Cup, well, y'all just haven't been paying attention, because they've got stuff planned for him moving forward. Absolutely. So we'll see how all that goes. But in the meantime, we are going to wrap up the weekly wrestling inspection. There we go. Fun little show that we had here tonight. Another great time talking pro wrestling and spending some good quality time on AEW Revolution on top of that. Deservedly so. But in the meantime, I am going to, since we're going to wrap this up, I am going to wish you all a great rest of your week. Thank you for being here. If you haven't already, like the video on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes if you're watching this live or on demand. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, hey, 5-star reviews, 5-star ratings, all of those things help out a great deal. So like I said, have a great rest of your week. There's still lots of wrestling to come. I will be back on Thursday with the AEW Dynamite review. Hope you all have a great time until then, and I'll see you next time.